My childhood sweetheart was a lawyer, and after I crippled Jenny, he sued me as the plaintiff's attorney. On the day I was sentenced, Daniel Walters tenderly took Jenny away, leaving only one sentence for me: repent and start life anew. I was obedient, I repented, no longer loving him. But Daniel, why are your tears scorchingly frightening? Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. On the day I was released from prison, I took out all the money I had and bought a train ticket as far away from New York City as possible. After experiencing half a lifetime of hardship, all I wanted was a peaceful life. A life far away from Danny. My old phone dinged. It was a message from him. Having ruined yourself, can you even survive without me? Come back before I get mad. I pulled out the SIM card, broke it, and threw it away, all in one smooth motion. From an early age, he relied on his cleverness. He thought he could control my life. Every problem has its expiring date. Danny, you should have thought of this. When, in your fit of rage for the woman you loved, you threw me into prison. That string had snapped completely. I found a job as a waiter in a pub in San Francisco. The boss is scary looking, standing more than 6 feet, with a towering height of 1.9 meters. Emanating an intimidating aura, every bit of him spells trouble. This job wasn't easy to come by. And I didn't want to get fired, so I kept working through the pain in my stomach. As I was wiping tables, straining every bit of energy I had left, I heard Michael Brown's voice. Drink this and then rest. In his hand, he held a steaming cup of coffee and milk. Dumbfounded, I lifted my head, for the first time daring to look at his face. Bold eyebrows, a high nose, thin lips, his face was expressionless. But there was a hint of concern that wasn't easily detectable. He didn't seem that scary at all. Just as I was about to take the coffee, I heard a commotion coming from the entrance. We've managed to finally go out for some fun. Danny, please stop messing with that lousy phone of yours. Exactly, Jenny, you really should get a handle on him. A group of people has just suddenly blundered into my field of vision. My eyes, of their own accord, fall on the most conspicuous person in that group. He's lost his earlier immaturity. He's now as calm and unruffled as a serene lake. Damn, Mary! When did she get here? Someone speaks up first, then turns to look at the expressionless Daniel. An ostentatiously dressed woman strides out from the crowd, pointing at my nose and swearing. Mary, you shameless woman, secretly tracking us. Julie is Jenny's close confidant. She first fell for Danny but was ignored by him at first. Julie insisted on standing up for her bestie. Mary, our Jenny, is soft-hearted, naive, and non-competitive. I know you and her are in love with the same person. But love is not about who came first or last, and you would only hold back him. Jenny Carter is the daughter of Professor Abraham Carter. The two of them are the golden boy and girl of the law school. But Danny used to treat Jenny very badly. He complained more than once in front of me about how Jenny pursued him so tenaciously until it got annoying. In the deserted basketball hall, I saw Jenny devoutly kiss Danny. He bore an aloof expression, yet he did not deter her approach. In my memory, the refined boy has now been tainted. The past I'm striving to forget is gradually overwhelming me like a tidal wave. Michael stands before me, shielding the scrutiny of those around us. He places the warm coffee in my cold hands, bringing me back from my days with his warmth. He says, "Go rest." Gratefully, I look at him, not noticing the darkening expression on Danny's face. My room is on the top floor, the sunniest spot in the inn, as ordered by Michael for me to stay. When I first came to apply, Michael had been sizing me up and down, glancing between my ID and me, and he couldn't resist asking, "Are you an adult?" "I am." I nod firmly. But looking through the silhouette of the glass, my pale face, straw-yellow hair, and the whole person are as thin as a piece of paper. He tilts his head thinking and eventually agrees. He told me to live on the top floor, away from him for peace to reign. He feeds me all kinds of supplements like vitamin D from the warehouse. He doesn't need money, claiming he is just making room in the warehouse. I know, he is a kind person with a tough exterior. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, there was a quarrel at the door. Julie screeched, "This room has the best natural light, why can't I stay in it?" "Danny, Mr. Brown, name your price, we'll take this bedroom." Between them, Michael's cold voice intermittently interrupts. "No, you can't, it's not allowed." I open the door in a daze, and the people outside are startled. Danny looks back and forth between Michael and me for a while, and then orders me with a frown. "Mary, Jenny has a hard time walking, please give up the room." Jenny, who has difficulty walking, is nestled in his arms, like a porcelain doll. A smile hangs on her lips. Her smile was the same as when she dashed towards the moving car in front of me. Yes, Jenny crippled her leg. But no one believed what I said. Even Danny demanded proof from me. I retorted, "Jenny has no evidence to prove that I pushed her." Danny fell silent, then spoke in a condescending tone. "All of you in your family are bad seeds, apples don't fall far from their tree." I was stunned. All of my family was made of bad people. My mother was a prostitute, and my father was a gambler. When I was a child, out of extreme hunger, I stole a Snicker bar from Danny's house. When he caught me, he cleaned my face and gave me more. "You're not like your family, don't allow yourself to fall." Now, he tells me that I am no different from my family. From childhood to adulthood, no one has ever given me love with conviction. I thought he was different. My spirit has been lost. When he accused me in the court, I could only mechanically nod in agreement. Seeing my lack of desire to defend myself, Danny couldn't help but purse his lips tightly. After the judgment, he said to me, "Make amends, and start over with a clean slate." My gaze has no focus. As if I am looking at him. Yet, at the same time, it seems to be gazing at his 18-year-old counterpart. He is so bitter, I don't want to have another home with him. "Mr. Michael, do you still not know that Mary has been in jail? For such a morally corrupt person, why haven't you thrown her out yet?" Julie hugged her arms, blaming Michael. I lowered my head, this identity ruined my pride. Michael leaned lazily against the wall, curving up the corners of his mouth, and uttered a few words. "It's none of your business. You." Julie was driven mad. "It's okay, Julie, don't give the boss a hard time. I'll be fine even if my leg hurts for a few days." Jenny forced a sweet smile, yet there was a trace of bitterness within it. Presenting herself as the weaker party has always been her successful strategy. Danny let out a disdainful sound. "Mary, are you trying to attract my attention this way?" he asked, annoyed. My nails dug into my flesh, eager to argue. But the pain in my abdomen made my head spin. In the end, I couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. Just before losing consciousness, I could hear Danny's panic-stricken voice as if he was afraid I would not wake up again. He has always been so malicious. Attacking me with the cruelest words, again and again, probing whether I still love him or not. We used to be neighbors before, living in a small apartment building. My parents often beat me and didn't give me food. Only Grandma Gloria would secretly give me a few large potatoes. Danny's family was also struggling. His parents were gone early. Danny at his tender age always kept a long face, but I was thick-skinned. Like a little tail, I always followed him around. The kids in the building were afraid of Danny. I wouldn't get bullied when I am with him. As time passed, I unknowingly fell in love with him. When you love someone, you want to give them the best. He grew up quickly, but he often felt dizzy because he couldn't keep up with the necessary nutrition. I secretly took on odd jobs, and with the money I earned, I left a bottle of milk at his doorstep every day. Daniel, who was very smart, instantly guessed it was from me. He was angry. He cornered me against the wall, furrowing his eyebrows, and said in a menacing tone, "I don't need your pity." I didn't expect his pride to be so strong. I accidentally hurt him. I wrote all my little thoughts that annoyed me and made me happy in my diary. But my diary was carelessly stolen by someone who circulated it around. After Danny saw it, he uttered 2 words, "disgusting." It felt like my blood froze, plunging me into an icy abyss. Ever since then, I never visited Danny's house. I always saw him on the road, in the cafeteria, on the playground. To avoid all of these, I simply never left the classroom. Later, there in the dark alley, he blocked my way and kissed me for the first time. With a hoarse voice, he said, "Fool, can't you persist a bit more? Maybe I would have been yours by now." He gives a slap first, then a sweet date. I was foolishly enjoying it. Unfortunately, I don't love him anymore. San Francisco is in the tourist season, the hotels are packed. Danny and his friends could only stay in Michael's inn. In the evening, they held a bonfire party in the backyard. I was about to leave after handing out the drinks, but Julie stopped me. "Mary, last month, Daniel proposed to Jenny. She wants to invite you to their engagement ceremony." Jenny blushed and smiled at me, her diamond ring extremely dazzling. There were smiles on both their faces, yet they were brimming with ostentation and malice. Julie's words made everyone to fall silent for a moment. They were all mutual friends of Danny and me, knowing how much I liked him. The once good friends watched my expression, to see how heartbroken and frenzied I'd become. Unfortunately, their plans fell through. "Thank you, but I've been really busy recently. I might not have the time, so I won't go." I looked at the man sitting beside the fire pit, who was still unaffected by the warmth, and said, "Also, I wish you a lifelong happiness." My tone was calm as if I was talking about something that didn't matter to me. The heart that had been aching faintly finally stopped throbbing. I slowly walked back, getting further and further away from the bright bonfire. Although I was walking into the darkness, isn't darkness just the beginning of the next dawn? "Danny, that's a fire pit. Stop kicking it." The sound of clanging resonates from behind me. I don't turn back to take a look. In the deep of the night, a commotion arises from downstairs. "Michael! Bring a doctor to Danny's room." I heard someone scream. Through the cacophony of noises, I learned that he had developed a high fever due to an untreated burn wound. I closed my door, intending to rest, but then I saw Michael, thinly dressed, standing in front of his room, in the chill of the night. He silently exhales smoky rings. He is the inn's owner, and a guest's misfortune is his primary responsibility. I grabbed a blanket and ran downstairs. "It's cold, wrap this around," I said to him. Michael doesn't speak, he bends towards me, signaling me to drape the blanket over him. My mind felt numbed by the cold wind, under the watchful gaze of many. I uncharacteristically breached the usual social distance to drape the blanket over him. He is quite tall, I have to stand on tiptoes to reach him. Because I am so close, I can smell the heavy scent of cypress wood mixed with a few strands of piercing tobacco smell on him. Suddenly, a thunderous crackle sounded at earshot. Danny toppled over the medical drip and antiseptic water in front of him, struggling to rise to his feet with a gloomy expression. Blood seeped slowly from the needle hole. But his body was too weak, after a few stumbles, he fell completely. Everyone rushed to help him back onto the bed. Jenny, seated in her wheelchair and unable to squeeze through, was left in distress. "It's a total mess, might as well make the most of it." Thinking about this, I looked up at Michael. "Boss, I'm hungry. I want pizza." A smile gleamed in his eyes. But he quickly suppressed the upturned corners of his mouth, and said coldly, "In your dreams." I snapped out of it, frustratedly pinched my fingertips. How have I started to rely on others again? Michael tossed me a blanket, saying, "Eating pizza at night is not good for digestion, I'll cook some chicken soup for you." I zoned out in the darkness for a long time, the corners of my mouth unconsciously lifted. Danny slept for 3 days. Everyone decided to book flight tickets to go back once he was well. I was watering the flowers in the yard, when he, pushing Jenny, walked towards me. I turned around in an attempt to leave, but Daniel called out to me, "Mary, tired of playing yet? Come with me." "I won't go." I tried to run, but he, tall and long-legged, quickly grabbed my wrist. Jenny stiffened for a moment, clearly furious yet still sporting a smile. She said, "Danny, Mary, and Mr. Michael are just getting along fine. If she doesn't want to leave, don't force her." Danny's grip tightened around my wrist in response. Ignoring Jenny's protest, he pulled me into the room. "I don't like it when you are with him." He cornered me, our breaths mingling. "Are you still upset about me sending you to jail? Haven't I told you you need to face the consequences if you've done something wrong? I looked away, my tone resolute. I did nothing wrong. He didn't seem to care. He casually twirls a strand of my hair with his fingers. You've learned to talk back now, huh? So naughty. How should I punish you? Duncan owes quite a bit of money recently. I heard that he is out of jail, and he's looking for you. He whispered in my ear, should I tell him or not? Upon hearing this, I was so angry that my whole body shook. Why must he push me like this? He laughed, it seems my little kitten wants to leave me. I must teach her a lesson. Danny had once owned a tabby cat. The tabby cat wasn't affectionate and ran away after a week. Danny didn't say anything, but later, I saw pictures of the abused kitten on his phone. If he can't have it, he destroys it. Years passed and I became that cat. You are engaged to Jenny, so in what identity should I stay by your side, as a sister, or a lover? He replied, it doesn't matter, I won't let you two see each other again. I laughed, carefree and light-hearted. Daniel, I no longer like you, yet you persist in pursuing me. Could it be you're in love with me to the core? He instantly let go of me, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. After a long while, he finally spoke. You're lying. You've liked me for so long. How could you just give up like that? All right, pack up. We'll be leaving this afternoon, he said, staggering out of the room. I slumped weakly to the ground, shedding silent tears. He knew me too well, he knew what I feared most. The scene of my father, reeking of alcohol, beating me with his belt was still vivid in my mind. It was so agonizing that I ended up rolling on the floor in pain. The more I begged him, the heavier the belt would strike. No matter how long it's been, I'm still trembling with fear. I would wake up from a nightmare at night and Danny would hold me and comfort me in his arms. He once said that he would protect me. But now he was threatening me with my past that I least wanted to revisit. How cruel of you, Daniel. I slowly stood up, there wasn't much to pack, so it was done quickly. I wanted to say goodbye to Michael, but he was out shopping and wasn't home. I left a note and got into the car with a numbed expression. Daniel is no longer the poor boy he was in the past. With the help of Jenny's family, his law firm is thriving while I crammed myself into a luxury apartment. He makes good on his word. After returning to New York for a month, I hadn't seen Jenny again. Every night, he stumbled back intoxicated, with a strong perfume of women lingering on him. I held my nose in disgust and prepared to go back to my room. He stopped me, his eyes moist and desperate looking. When I was cruel to you before, you still loved me. Now that I'm good to you, why do you despise me? I provided you with good living conditions, why can't you smile at me like before? I broke away from his grip. The Danny in my heart is already dead, you don't deserve him. I shook him off, rushed back to the room, and locked the door. After a long while, a thundering slam told me he had left. Since then, he never came back. I let out a long sigh, but before I could even finish, I ran into Danny and Jenny at the hospital. The weather was cold. As I picked up my cold medicine, ready to hail a cab outside the hospital, I looked up to see the silent Danny pushing the chattering Jenny. Jenny placed her hand on her slightly protruding belly. I froze, and the medicine box clattered to the ground. He looked over at the noise, his eyes wide. In a panic, I tried to cover Jenny's pregnant belly. It was too late. I had already seen it. Slowly, I picked up the medicine box and step by step, returned home. To say that I wasn't moved would be a lie, after all, he was the first person I ever liked. I had even fantasized about having a child who looked just like him. I would give him all my love, and even when he made mistakes, I would not scold him. I didn't want the pain I had experienced to fall upon him again. Back then, upon hearing my thoughts, Danny laughed until his ears turned red, hugging me as we imagined it together. We would certainly make the best parents, giving him the love I had never felt before. Just as I entered the building complex, I saw a man hunched over arguing with a security guard. My daughter lives inside. On what grounds are you denying me entry? The familiar voice made my blood run cold. I turned and ran, but fate seems to be against me. Duncan saw me running desperately to a secluded intersection. And he ran after me and caught up with me. He flashed me a toothy grin, yellow teeth all bared, slapped my shoulder panting. "Mary, got some money now? Why are you running away from your old man? If it wasn't for a woman telling me you live here, I wouldn't even find you." Without any preamble, he got right to the point. "Give me some money, I'm broke." When I was a child, he used to beg my mom for money in the same way. My mother loved him. To pay his debts, she had to sell her body, and still, it was never enough for this bottomless pit. When her love was exhausted, she ran away, leaving me alone in the abyss. All along, no one cared about my feelings. Taking a step back, I said, "I have no money, the house isn't mine." "Damn it, you're looking for a beating again?" he sneered. Duncan raised his hand, ready to hit me as he did when I was a child. In my panic, I reached out to push him. He was quickly overthrown to the ground, and in a daze, I stared at my own hand. My heart thumped, beating rapidly. Yes, I am no longer the little girl who was once weak and fragile. Now I am taller than Duncan and younger Mary, and can protect myself. Having spent years beside the gambling table, his health had already deteriorated. Slowly, I clenched my fist, imitating the way he used to punch me. In a trance, it seemed as if my younger self was cheering me on from the sidelines. "Yes, that's right, strike him." His face was a mess of bruises, and he was howling on the ground. Gazing at this paper tiger, I straightened my back and slowly said, "I don't want to see you again. Otherwise, every time I see you, I'd smack you once." I stumbled back, the fatigue sweeping over me as the adrenaline from earlier began to wear off. A car barely missed me, braking hard in the nick of time. Frightened, I fell to the ground, my eyes slowly landing on a pair of polished leather shoes in front of me. My gaze followed up along the suit pants. Michael looked at me with an indecipherable expression. For some unknown reason, I suddenly felt like crying. Tears, like a breached dam, gushed out. "Alas, I hadn't even blamed you for leaving without a word, and here you are crying first." He sighed, steadied me in his arms, and headed for the back seat of the car. After a moment, when I recovered from the flood of tears, I found myself straddling his lap. The burning heat source kept reminding me of my impropriety. Flushing with embarrassment, I tried to get off him. Michael pinched my waist, preventing any movement. He ground his molars and said, "You little ingrate, you've been gone for so long and didn't contact me." I buried my head in his clothes in shame, my voice as small as a mosquito. "My phone was taken by Daniel and I don't remember your number." Suddenly glancing at the scenery outside the window, I asked in surprise, "Where are we going?" "My home." Without any mental preparation, we arrived in his home. His mother is so gentle. She would affectionately hold my hand and ask me if I felt cold. Although his father barely smiled or talked, his gaze was warm. During dinner, the dish in my bowl was piled up like a small mountain. His mother kept serving me food. "You're so thin, you must eat more." I truly couldn't eat anymore, and I helplessly glanced at Michael for help. He propped his head up, looking at me with a similarly bright smile. The light cast upon him gave him the appearance of a glowing sun. But one can easily get burned being too close to the sun. I'd rather hide in my shell, not giving anyone a chance to harm me. After finishing the meal, I stood up to express my gratitude. "Thank you all for your hospitality. I'll be going now and will visit you next time. Mary, you rarely visit us, why don't you stay for a few more days?" His mother signaled him with her eyes to persuade me to stay. Michael seemed to have anticipated that I would retreat into my shell and said, "Tomorrow is my mom's birthday. And it's so rare to see her like someone, she seems to like you so much. Could you please stay one more day?" "Yes, I do love having beautiful girls around me for joy. Mary, please, I need you to stay longer." His mom pleaded. Their sincere gazes created a small crack in the wall I had built around my heart. I slowly nodded. "Great!" She jubilated. Overjoyed, she took me upstairs to choose a room. The room is beautiful, tinted in pink, and filled with items that would touch a young girl's heart. I lay on the soft, warm bed. There's a burning heat in my heart. His mother invited a lot of people to her birthday party. They were dressed up and engaged in lively conversations. I knew Michael was from a unique background. The inn wasn't doing well, but he wasn't worried at all. I tried to be invisible, taking refuge in a corner, slowly sipping on my drink. It was sweet and delicious, and before I knew it, I had several cups. "Mary, stop drinking." A well-defined hand stopped me. I turned my head, intending to explain myself to Michael. The person standing behind me was not him but Danny. It had only been a day since I last saw him, but he seemed to have aged a lot. "I've been looking for you for a while. I didn't expect to find you at his house. I can explain about the child." He pressed his fingers to his brows. "I can have a child with you too. Quit acting up, leaving home in a huff, okay?" I felt my blood boil and I fiercely slapped him. "Why have you turned into such a jerk now?" The loud slap attracted the attention of people around us. He was somewhat famous in the city and everyone was now whispering about us. He licked his hurt cheek, surprisingly not angry but smiling as he reached out to pull me. "All right, it was my fault. Your anger has been vented, let's go together." Danny, always so prideful, for the first time admitted his mistake in front of me. In the past, I would have gladly walked away with him. But I stepped back, bumping into a warm and firm chest. Michael pulled me behind him. The look in Danny's eyes gradually darkened as he beckoned, like calling a small dog, and said, "Mary, come here." I shook my head. I moved closer to Michael, who took my hand smoothly. Seeing this, the corner of Danny's lips tightened into a straight line, revealing a carefree resentment. "No wonder you can leave me without any regrets. After all, you've climbed up the high branch known as Michael. Do you think the Brown family would accept a daughter-in-law who has been in jail?" I froze and tried to gently pull back my hand. But Michael's grip was so firm, as if he was asserting his determination. "Why not? The judgment of my son can't be wrong." Mrs. Brown slowly emerged from the crowd. "Mike, take my daughter-in-law upstairs to rest. I will handle things here." I walked into the room and lowered my head in apology. "I'm sorry for ruining your mom's birthday." Michael, sitting on the bed, stretched out his long legs and tilted his head with a smile. "How could she be? I gave her a daughter-in-law as a present today, she can't be happier." I gasped in surprise. My stomach slowly twisted. "But we're not in that kind of relationship." With a long stretch of his hand, Michael pulled me into his arms, seeming to enjoy having me sit on his lap. The temperature in the room was still rising, the heated air causing the effects of alcohol to surge in me, making me feel very dizzy and thirsty. In a daze, I found his lips to be so red and inviting. I couldn't resist kissing him. Surprised momentarily, Michael responded by deepening the kiss. His thoughts were completely muddled. When I woke up, Michael had me tightly wrapped in his arms, his exposed shoulder full of scratch marks. "Oh no." I carefully got up, barely dressed when I saw him watching me sullenly. He didn't say anything, he just silently turned away, refusing to look at me. Momentarily, guilt threatened to drown me. I slowly climbed into bed and poked him. "I'm sorry, it was the alcohol that muddled my mind. I promise to make it up to you." Michael turned back, his eyes gleaming. Suddenly, he pinned me to the bed, his voice hoarse. "Then let's do it again." "Oh no! I've been tricked." When the fog of passion subsided, I voiced the question that's been buried in my heart for so long. "Why do you like me? I'm obviously so unworthy." He held me close, our hearts aligned as he responded. "Do I need a reason to like someone? I'm genuinely delighted whenever I see you, the happier I am, the more I want to see you." Even though Michael spoke casually, his heartbeat revealed his nervousness. I couldn't help but cover my mouth to stifle a laugh, which riled him. He pulled at me, and we started again. He sighed. A man newly experienced in the throes of passion can be scary. Encouraged by him, I picked up the work of simultaneous interpretation again and my life gradually got back on track. Previously, I was the best student representative at school, with a promising and bright future. People never lack the courage to start all over again. If you fall into the dust, just dust yourself off and laugh at life. Unexpectedly, Julie coincidentally joined the same company as me. She went around telling our colleagues that I had been in jail, that I got in through unfair relationships, and she took the lead in isolating me. Back in school, I always outperformed her. Despite not studying relevant knowledge for several years, I still used my solid ability to silence the gossiping crowd. What people need is not shallow friendship, but partners who can contribute to their careers. Without a doubt, I'm very good at what I do. In just 2 months, I became Julie's boss. Now, when she sees me, she has to nod and say hello. After the day's work, I rubbed my sore shoulders and neck, planning to go home. A female employee tapped on my desk. The boss said he has something important to tell you and is waiting for you by the fire exit. I nodded, stood up, only to find Julie sneakily rejoicing in my potential trouble. When she noticed my gaze, she nonchalantly pretended to organize the folders. I opened the fire door to find Jenny sitting in a wheelchair with her protruding belly, smiling at me. The door swung open and then shut automatically due to inertia, creating a dim sight. Leaning against the door, I said, "Stop laughing, your laughter has always seemed fake." Jenny was taken aback, her voice becoming somewhat shrill. "I wish I had left you to rot in jail, so you wouldn't get the chance to ruin my happiness again. Danny has disappeared, and he hasn't been answering my calls, even though we're engaged. I asked your father to deal with you, but he's so useless." As she spoke, she stood up from her wheelchair. Seeing my placid reaction, she asked, "Did you already know? Your acting is terribly clumsy. When you threw yourself at the car, both you and the car were pulling your punches. At most, you'd get fractured bones. But you bribed the doctors to fake the severity of your injuries. Am I right or am I wrong?" I realized all of this while replaying the events over and over again in jail. Jenny may love Danny, but she wouldn't have sacrificed her legs for him. I said to her, "Only a fool like him would get duped by you." She chuckled lightly. "The method doesn't matter, as long as it works." With that, she pushed the wheelchair down the stairs, the clattering noise echoing throughout the hallway. "If I can put you away once, I can do it again." She had gone utterly mad in her bid to win back Danny's heart. She hurtled down the stairs, blood slowly pooling around her. Smeared with tear tracks, she cried out for help desperately, "Please, don't kill me." Julie was the first to burst in and dialed the emergency number immediately. I was arrested in front of all my colleagues. Jenny was taken to the hospital. Her unborn child, a formed male fetus of 8 months, didn't make it. She sobbed inconsolably in Danny's arms, hoping he would bring me to justice once more. Unfortunately, this time, Danny was expressionless, even showing a hint of disgust. "Danny, are you trying to cover up for Mary? She killed our baby." Jenny gripped his necktie tightly. "Jen, I have had enough of your pretense with you." He mercilessly pushed away Jenny, who was crying and whimpering. "When did you find out?" "I discovered that there was nothing wrong with your leg a month after Mary stepped in. Seeing your extreme love for me, being surrounded by such fervor felt good. So I indulged you in your little act." Jenny spoke with despair. "Can't you continue pretending?" Danny shook his head. "No, Mary is beginning to love someone else. I won't let her go." Only then did she realize how cold-hearted this man was. He didn't understand love, he just reveled in the supplications of women. "The child's gone, it's gone now. I need to get Mary back and make her fall in love with me again. After all, I should thank you for this. It's a pity, I don't need anyone to save me. This time, I will redeem myself." I took out the voice recorder which had long been prepared. It clearly recorded the conversation in the hallway. I don't know how long I've been waiting for this moment to prove my innocence. I walked out upright and collided head-on with Danny. He has on a white shirt, his hair obediently hanging in front of his forehead, gradually overlapping with the teenager who used to wait for me after class in my memory. "Mary, I am here to take you home." I slowly walked over, he stretched out his arms. But I bypassed him, warmly embracing Michael who was behind him. Danny spoke without any trace of emotion. "Mary, are you truly done with me?" I didn't turn back, but responded assertively. "That's right, and stop saying things like this. My boyfriend will get mad if he hears it. He is very hard to placate." As we left, Danny remained standing there, not having moved a step. Jenny was arrested at the hospital. At that time, she was still wrapped up in the hardships of her lost love, behaving hysterically and talking about life and death. When she heard the police stating her crimes, she hid behind her father like a sparrow, beseeching him to save her. In the beginning, Jenny adamantly denied the accusations. However, upon learning of her best friend Julie's confession of the entire events, she finally broke down in tears out of fear. Unfortunately, it was too late. They were destined to sing behind iron bars with tears. When her father found out that the mastermind was his beloved daughter, he started his furious retaliation. He used all his resources to take down Danny's law firm. Soon, Danny's reputation was tarnished. He lost everything and became an individual, disliked as a street rat. Autumn, the season I was born. Michael and I had our wedding ceremony. The tall man, almost 1.90 meters, cried like a tearful doll. Danny, not knowing where he got the invitation from, was also there. He held a bluebell in his hand, the one that almost died. But in the end, he took it and nurtured it back to life. What a pity that it never bloomed under my care. Now, however, it is brilliantly blossoming. Mary, the flower has bloomed, can we start anew? He asked. He always thought that no matter how he treated me, I would stay put and wait for him. Even now, he stubbornly believed that I still loved him. Facing him, I replied, word by word, no. Under the cherry blossom tree, everyone looked beautiful. My love is passionate for all, not because you are good, but because I am. I quoted, smiling. Danny contained his emotions, the knuckles on his hand turned white from exerting force. Mary, this joke isn't funny. He wanted to laugh, as I once said I liked to see him smile. But now, his laughter looked uglier than his cries. 1 drop, 2 drops, his tears fell onto my arm, scalding hot. When was the last time he cried? It seemed like it was when his grandmother passed away. He held me, crying hideously, and repeatedly said, "You're the only one by my side, don't abandon me." I did not abandon you, you pushed me away first, I answered. Later on, the Brown family's business moved overseas. When our entire family was relocating, Michael asked me, "Do you have any unfulfilled wishes?" "Actually, I do," I answered. Upon hearing this, he becomes anxious, fiddling with his fingers, afraid that I might change my mind again. I wrapped my arms around his neck, speaking sweetly. "We still don't have a child, you know." Many years later, I heard snippets of news about Danny. He got into a car accident, becoming disabled from the waist down. He lost everything, including his law firm.